facility, which is about 20 miles directly west of our site, stranding major high voltage transmission infrastructure, 2,200 megawatts decommissioned. Then they announced that they were going to decommission another 2,200 meg nuke a little further north, a place called Diablo Canyon, which is scheduled for decommissioning in 2024. And they started to announce that once-through cooling thermal facilities along the west coast weren't going to be re-permitted. So they start to see a lot of congestion on transmission systems, and then they observe the duck curve going, my goodness, we've had such a high penetration of solar and wind, which is plentiful during the day, and it's low cost or negative cost, and we've got all these peak demands. Our solution is storage. So FERC, the DOE, and a whole host of parties in 2016 said, you know, here's a recipe for some new infrastructure build. FERC had been pushing on some policy matters since 2007 on getting CalISO to be more transparent in its planning process, to start to look at storage product, particularly connected to high voltage as a transmission asset, eligible for cost recovery. And then in January of 2017, FERC came out with a policy statement saying that advanced transmission assets and their applicants should be eligible for choosing whether or not they want cost recovery under a transmission-like tariff or participate in the market, but not both. And there was a precedent for that decision by FERC. So we started to pay attention to what we thought was going to happen on the policy front. We looked at CalISO studies, and one of the CalISO studies dealt with our project specifically. And without naming the project, the proxy was, lo and behold, located right between the major load centers, LA, San Diego. It happened to be located about 20 miles inland from the SONG's high voltage transmission infrastructure. It was our site. So when you start to do the analysis, and we've done this in an affidavit that was filed with our petition for declaratory order with FERC, you can see the massive benefits that this project delivers to the grid in terms of reliability or resiliency, is the new buzzword, and the benefit to cost ratio is significant. We've estimated, well, not we, but our expert, independent expert, has estimated $5 billion of potential. So we went to FERC and we said, we'd like to revive this project. We went to Morgan Stanley, we got them to stand still and only take repayment if we get to notice to proceed. Negotiated that with everybody, and then met with FERC on the licensing front and FERC on the cost recovery front, and got access to all of the commissioners. And our assessment was that, you know, a variety of circumstances have changed. The market needs it. Reliability has become a federal policy matter of high priority. Both the DOE and the FERC are demonstrating that. The labor union support it because it's a within California solution for resiliency needs as opposed to importing electrons from neighboring states. And we think it's consistent with California energy policy. So in combination with picking up all of the work that had been done on the project for 2 decades, some $30 million worth of investment, adding on our management overlay to bring, I guess, some new discipline to the project team, and bringing along some capital, we've revived it. And our approach on this is, we're taking 2 parallel paths. One, FERC on the licensing piece. They've granted us waivers. Our final license application was filed October 2nd, 2017, 25,000 pages. We could have done a better job had we had more time, but there was a lot of...
Better is in more pages?
Well, there had been, again, 2 decades worth of work. We signed the development funding agreement in mid-July. We're racing as a small, nimble team to try and get this in before the deadline, which was October 2nd. And, you know, it wasn't perfect, but nevertheless, FERC came back with a deficiency notice communique, which is a mere 10 pages long. And usually they're 120 to 150.
That's why.
So, you know, we made a lot of progress by lobbying FERC people directly. And I know the people at FERC. And so, you know, the old, we're the poor little developers, you know, give us a break. It was relatively effective. And then in parallel, we went in with this petition for a declaratory order saying to FERC, listen, we want you to adjudicate the tariff. We don't want to go to the CPUC. We don't want a bilateral with one of the state utilities, even though they would like this in the rate base and even though they would gladly participate in the equity structure, we'd rather come to you guys from a tariff adjudication point of view. And we met with tariff folks and all of the commissioners, and they said, listen, the time is right for this. We've been wrestling with California for a decade on whether or not they're adhering to a series of policy orders. We think that grid resiliency is a critical national security issue, and game on. So we decided to take a two-step approach on the cost recovery verification. We've gone to FERC with this petition for a declaratory order and a massive affidavit that demonstrates that if CalISO analyzed this project for its transmission attributes, they would have approved it in their transmission plan. So our approach here is to keep it low cost and keep the politics low and get FERC, you know, kind of standing at the plate for us, is make FERC the customer on the two fronts, licensing and cost recovery. And that's where we're at. So in Project 1, we're expecting a reply from FERC. It should be imminent in terms of what additional studies they want us to update to the extent they can't rely on the studies that have been done over the last 20 years. That's on the licensing piece. We're negotiating water supply agreements with the local watershed authority and the city in terms of easements. They're supporting the project. And then on the cost recovery piece, we're waiting for FERC to issue its declaratory order on our petition, and we think that's going to come in June. If they issue the order, which we hope they will say, yes, this project is a transmission asset, therefore needs to be evaluated for all of the reliability and transmission services that it provides, and two, consistent with policy and former orders.
Binary zeros and ones, right?
Yeah.
And the regulatory approval and getting treated as transmission asset, you know, they're in your judgment the right required but not sufficient approvals. If you got those, then you're really in even pre-NTP, right? Because then you're finalizing capital formation, EPC, execution and construction, transmission, connectivity, et cetera, right? You're really in project execution.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Is there anything about that part of the phase that is either what's the most risky part of that? What's the part of that you would say it's a 4-year? I see it's a 4-year process here, which is relatively hot.
Yeah.
At least versus us as a fund, and I'm sure any fund that you guys are talking to, one that have closed ends, fixed lives, rather than open ends, are going to do that relatively long.
Well, there's been an awful lot of work done on this project over the last 2 decades, and just to put it into perspective, it's currently now $2.1 billion. We've had all of the capital estimates updated. Within the $2.1 billion, there's about this is all USD. There's $200 million of system upgrades that are required pursuant to our large generator interconnection agreements. One is with Southern Cal Edison to the north, and one is with San Diego Gas and Electric to the south. We have large generator interconnection agreements, and they're obligated to interconnect us. 500 kV at the north end, 3-phase step down to 230 kV at the south end. We will own and operate 32 miles of 500 kV transmission infrastructure, which is about $600 million and change.